Hello everyone and welcome back to The Force Unleashed 2 after 5 years, where we're going to take care of some unfinished business by playing the fucking DLC finally.
The rebels must be stopped before they can destroy the shield generator. Leave no survivors.
Understood, my master.
There will be no one to stop us this time.
Yes, my master.
Alright, so first things first. As soon as the mission starts, we're going to change our costume. Because this DLC has a unique costume where you can play as a Rebel Grenadier. And I really like the Rebel Grenadier outfit. It's my second favorite costume available in the game, and you can only get it in this DLC. So, that's nice, I guess. The DLC is nice for other reasons, but it's also nice that you get a cool outfit. So, it's been a while since I've played The Force Unleashed 2, but I got back into practice so that way I could record a good run of this DLC for you. And the last time I played this DLC was over 5 years ago, when I originally bought it. So I can say that my thoughts on the DLC back then and now were still completely accurate. My thoughts on the DLC being that it's more difficult than the main game, the design is better because the enemy placements are improved, and they have more threatening projectiles which they use more frequently. Basically, the DLC is just like the main campaign, but better. Smarter enemy placement, the enemies use their grenades more often, and instead of the big enemies being big enemies, as you'll see later, they're turrets with shields. I did 5 or so practice runs of this DLC before settling on a recording, and I think this one probably turned out the best. I also really think this DLC turned out about the best it could have. Like, the opening area leading up to this roadblock with the ship is really visually interesting. There's not a lot of greenery in the base game, so starting out in a forest was a good move, especially given the location of this DLC, and the rocky and muddy path leading up here lends a lot of atmosphere to where you land. Because I've walked along rocky and muddy pathways that swerve upward like that in real life. So moving that ship would not have been possible if we were getting shot at. That's how it gates our progress. The game doesn't always remember to gate your progress, but when it does it well. It disguises it well enough, I think, in most circumstances. Here's a physics puzzle. It's like the only one in the level. It's a little odd. I wish they would have added a couple more so it didn't feel so out of place. But we levitate this branch and place it down on this rock to hold it in place. That way we can platform now. And it would be nice if there was more of this in the DLC, because there isn't. It's the only time you do something like that. But it is a nice break between the initial fighting sequence and then fighting the ewoks up ahead. As soon as they appear. Here they are. So the ewoks are like the terror droids, which are the small enemies in the base game, with one major difference, which fits with the theme of the rest of the DLC, being that the ewoks are more dangerous. The ewoks are far more dangerous small enemies than the terror droids. Still easy to kill, but less easy. They're more aggressive, they have explosives and projectiles, and you can punt them. Like this. So they're just better all around. They have more weight to them, so that way they're more fun to kill. Sometimes their explosives and projectiles will actually hit you. It would have been better if they were around a large enemy, because that's what most of the design in this game is based around, is cluttering small enemies around a large enemy. That's how most of the design in this game works. Not so with the ewoks. You fight the ewoks by themselves, mostly. They can also dodge roll, by the way, which they do sometimes when you try to grab them. Not force grab them, but just grab them. Force gripping them is something they cannot get out of. They just have to accept that they're dead now. Like that guy. I'm sure he knew it was the end. But when you try and regular grab them to punt them, they can dodge roll. Yeah, like that. But they don't escape their death for long. Never for long. Alright, let's break down the big barricade, and the animation glitches out here. But that's okay. Nothing is perfect. The Force Unleashed 2 is definitely not perfect. Would never say it was. The DLC is good. I think the base game is good. I think the DLC is better than the base game, but I'm pretty sure it was made after, judging by the improvements in game design. Making the enemies more threatening and having better environmental design and enemy placement and all that. Here's the turret. The turrets are what replace the big enemies. As I said, most of the game's design is based around grouping small enemies around bigger enemies. Instead of big enemies, now you have a turret, which you need to destroy the shield generator for, and then you can also destroy the turret itself if you feel like it. So it's the big enemy for the DLC. Unfortunately for the DLC, you can run past most of the turrets, with the exception of one well-designed encounter that we'll see shortly. You can just kind of platform past everything. This log, or tree stump, or whatever you want to call it, right here, that I'm going to jump on, has weird hit detection problems, and it's difficult to jump off of it properly. Starkiller just kind of twitches. I don't like that, but eventually we will get over it. It's just not meant to be this difficult to jump on top of the fuck... There we go. So, here's two of the turrets, and as I said, unfortunately for the game, we can just kind of run past them. That being said, the DLC is still pretty good, even though you can skip past some of the enemies. You can skip past some... Oh, first boss fight.
Chewie, we got company.
This is the DLC where you kill Chewie and Han Solo. I seem to recall people not liking this DLC very much, because you can kill Chewie and Han Solo in it. I don't like Chewie or Han Solo, so I'm fine with this. It also helps that this boss fight... Well, the Force Grip fucked up there. But it also helps that this boss fight is better than any of the boss fights in the main game. Just like normal walkers, Chewie's walker is easily damaged by physics objects, which we can hurl into it. We can also throw our lightsabers if we don't feel like fucking with the physics objects. And we can throw our lightsabers pretty rapidly. Ewoks come out that we can also throw into Chewie's walker. And he throws out his own bombs that we can throw into his walker. And Han Solo shoots rockets that we can throw into his walker. It's a fast fight because they give you so many ways to fight the walker. And it's not really a threat, but the bosses in the main game are not really a threat either. Alright? They're not. At least this boss, you destroy it. I'm having so much trouble with the Force Grip. At least this boss, you destroy it the same way you destroy the other walkers. It's quick. The health bar goes down super fast, and at the end of it, you get to kill beloved characters. I think that's a huge positive. I think it brings a lot to the table. It's quick, it's fun, and you get to murder people. Murder people that millions of people love very dearly. A cultural icon, even, you get to murder at the end of this. 2 cultural icons. Do you think Chewie or Han Solo has more merchandising? I'm just really curious about that. What do you think is the split on that?
Chewie!
Princess, you go on. We'll cover you. You have to set those charges. Understood. And thank you.
This is a fun encounter, probably the most fun encounter in the DLC. So, there's a big turret up there, and it's got 2 force fields around it, and there are guys that come out from the sides to storm you, and you can kill them by throwing them into the blue force fields, which I like to do, or you can just get up close and personal and slash them to death, but the idea is to fight them while avoiding the turret in the center. And you're provided plenty of cover to avoid the turret with. Eventually, the enemies will get the idea and hang out in the middle and throw grenades at you, so you'll have to move. You can't just hang out on the outside the whole time. But I really like this encounter. I think it's well designed. I like how much cover they give you. I like that the cover can potentially be used as a projectile. I like all the ways to kill the rebel troopers. I like that it encourages use of Starkiller's movement. I like that there are 2 force fields protecting the turret, which makes it an actual threat this time. Let's take out that second force field now, by the way. We're in Fury mode, which means all our attacks deal more damage, and we're just ludicrously powerful in general. We can also turn off Fury mode manually, though. The encounter's pretty much over. But something of note is that right here, when you see me jumping near the enemies like an idiot, I was trying to do the drop kick grab, which is hard to activate. And I could not do it. It's unfortunate. I managed to do it by accident sometimes, but not in this run. Up next is the Catwalk segments, and I have come to love the Catwalk segments. There are just so many enemies grouped up in such a small space, so much shit to throw at them, so many ways for them to die. And there's a nice split of stormtroopers and rebel troopers to fight in here, not to mention this is such a visually interesting place. And there's some decent platforming and hazards here, too. Lots of explosive barrel. It's just nice. The Catwalk segment is real nice. It brings a much-needed environmental variety to the game and to the DLC. The DLC itself has a lot of environmental variety. Start out in the forest, fight quite a large diversity of enemies. The catwalks are a great idea. I love the electric currents you have to avoid. I love that you mess with the machinery to perform your platforming. It's such a creative way to use this level concept. Like, they thought, what are we going to do here? How can we make this interesting to play and not just interesting to look at? And they came up with some pretty fucking cool shit. It's good. It's a good DLC with good level design. Better than the main game. And the main game, I would still say, is pretty good, even if the DLC is better. Just more of the things that are good about the main game and the DLC. It's a shame that Force Unleashed 2 never got a collected edition, like the original Force Unleashed, but, to be fair, the Force Unleashed 2 only got the 1 DLC. The original Force Unleashed got, I think, 3. They got the Jedi Temple DLC, and then 2 DLCs where you play as the Dark Apprentice. But Force Unleashed 2 only had the 1 DLC, which I think was released shortly before LucasArts became bankrupt, so it's not really anyone's fault that it turned out this way. I would have loved more Force Unleashed 2 DLC, but I'm happy that we got DLC at all, because the DLC is very well designed, and it exemplifies all of the good things about Force Unleashed 2. Well, I mean, it's all of the good things about Force Unleashed 2's game design. It doesn't have any good character writing in it. Regardless of the terrible story in The Force Unleashed 2, which I do agree is quite bad, I think The Force Unleashed 2 has excellent character writing, and that's entirely absent in the DLC, which is fine, because the whole point of the DLC is that you're playing as Starkiller's clone, who was brainwashed to be this dark, obedient, evil dude who just murders. Like that. So that's fine. It makes sense in universe. I have no problems with it. I actually really like this after we take care of these guys with explosive barrels and whatnot. Can't have them interrupting our game design. Or do they think they're part of it or something? So this right here, after we try and pull this walkway down, barrels coming down at us, I think that's cute. It's unlikely that you'd actually get hit by them, but I think it's cute. Also, we're going to skip a section of the level right here. There we go. I just didn't feel like dealing with that. I think that's reasonable. And now it's time for the best boss fight in Force Unleashed 2 by far.
I don't know why you even bother.
There is much you fail to see, Sith. After my brother fell on Hoth, I fulfilled the destiny that he could not. Now, I am a Jedi.
So Leia's actually a pretty great boss fight for this game. There are a lot of ways you can damage her. You can counterattack her lightsabers. You can shock her right after she does an attack, where she's most vulnerable. You can also melee her right after she does certain attacks. She's most vulnerable to Force Lightning. But the important thing about Leia is that the more skilled you are at the game, and the more skilled you are at reading her patterns, the faster the boss fight goes. And it goes faster significantly. She dies quickly if you're good at the game. The Gorog doesn't die quickly if you're good at the game. Darth Vader doesn't die quickly if you're good at the game. The Terror Walker doesn't die quickly if you're good at the game. But Leia dies quickly if you're good at the game. How fast the boss goes depends on how good you are at reading her patterns and acting when she's vulnerable. That's how it should be for a game like this. It fits much better with the rest of Force Unleashed 2's design than the other bosses. Even this part, which is a bit of a break between just slashing at Leia, this part is all about how quick you react to the situation. As soon as you figure out what's going on, that you need to attack the lasers, you just attack the lasers as quick as possible. The quicker you attack the lasers and the more consistently you attack them, the faster the segment goes. I know that may not seem like a big deal, but it is in this game where the regular boss fights are quite horrendous and slow and add nothing to the game design or narrative. I also like that this section with the lasers is a lot like a Mario Party minigame. Immensely reminds me of one of those, where you have to control your movement on a spinning platform and avoid hazards. Reminds me so much of a fucking Mario Party minigame, and that's to its benefit. I would say that is definitely a positive about this.
But you have much to learn.
So now we're fighting Leia one-on-one again, but this time she adds additional nuances to her patterns. So we can attack her while she's up there with Force Lightning after she shoots a Force Push, Blast, or whatever you want to call that, or throws her lightsaber. We can zap her. And it deals a lot of damage. But yeah, a new pattern that syncs up with her other pattern. She'll also jump down to ground pound sometimes, and she'll still engage in her old attacks like her lightsaber swings and whatnot. You know, it's like if the Darth Vader fight were good. Okay, she has clear vulnerabilities. You have to pay attention to what she's doing. Think about how you're going to counterattack her. Which attacks are most effective against her. It requires thoughtfulness and patience, but not so much patience that it becomes fucking boring. She's vulnerable like every 5 seconds, and you can bait her into being vulnerable if she's taking too long. You basically control the entire fight if you know what you're doing. Like, I'm just really proud of them for finding a way to create a good boss fight for this game. It's quite a spectacle, the place we're fighting in. It's a character with an interesting and diverse moveset. And they didn't have to sacrifice any gameplay. Feels like an extension of the game instead of a detraction. Definitely say the Gorog fight felt like a detraction from the main gameplay. The Terror Walker is probably the best boss fight in the main game, and that's saying something because the Terror Walker required far too much waiting and too much running around dicking with shit. It's cute that they tried with the Terror Walker, but they eventually realized how to make a good boss fight against another Jedi, and a good boss fight in general with the combat engine they developed. I don't know what happened with the Darth Vader fight, but someone fucked up. I can't imagine the Darth Vader fight came out the way they wanted it when they could have done this instead. This is so much better. Yes, Darth Vader's different, but there are better ways. There are better ways to make a Darth Vader formidable without making the only real way to hurt him a counterattack. There are so many better ways. They could have also just made your attacks deal decent damage to Darth Vader. They really don't. The counterattack deals okay damage, but honestly, I think I just got hit during a cutscene, but honestly, not nearly as much as you're dealing to Leia. And the fight taking less time is not an indicator that the fight... Oh. Well, that's the DLC, everyone. Hope you had a good time. I did.
It's over, you rebel scum. A great day, Lord Vader. Today marks the death of the rebellion and the birth of a new era of peace for the Empire. There is but one last detail to take care of. Do you take me for a fool? Your feeble schemes to overthrow me using that pathetic clone of your former apprentice were pitifully obvious from their inception. Now, Skywalker, you will die. Captain Sarkley.
My liege?
Take your troops and destroy the clone.